There are so many reasons to rewatch a movie. Leaving the theater feeling confused about what just happened or stunned about a twist ending is often a good reason to revisit a story more than once. Sometimes going into a film armed with knowledge you picked up on the first round can make the second one even better. Here are 10 movies you need to watch twice to understand.
Captain Deadpool. No, just...
Deadpool. Earlier this year, audiences watched Ryan Reynolds rock the role of Deadpool. Director Tim Miller wasn't afraid to give the fans what they wanted either, and together they delivered the loquacious wise-ass we were hoping to find at the end of 2009's X-Men Origins Wolverine. Deadpool isn't totally exempt from criticism though.
Dumbass.
There's always a lot to pay attention to in a character's origin story. The movie tackles all that, but also jumps quickly from timeline to timeline, so if you're not careful, you'll likely get a little lost. And for every moment you spend confused, you'll miss at least 3 awesome insults.
Aren't you a little strong for a lady?
The banter alone is reason enough to give the movie multiple viewings,
That's good. You should keep it that way.
since Reynolds was basically born to play the merc with a mouth. Fight Club. Forget what you've heard. Fight Club is not a movie about soap. The big screen adaptation of Chuck Palahniuk's novel of the same name comes courtesy of director David Fincher. Known for his haunting work, Fincher's critics are an arsenal of gloom. Brain-twisting and uncomfortable, his style is on display in movies like Gone Girl, Seven, and The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. So when the director takes everything you think you know about the characters and burns it down at the end of Fight Club, you'll probably be overwhelmed with the urge to rewatch it immediately. Curious about where you went wrong, you'll be eager to apply your newfound knowledge. Plus, Fincher methodically reveals pieces of the story in a way that makes the second viewing just as engaging as the first. Inception. Christopher Nolan does not underestimate his audience and layers his movie with intricate detail, trusting that we'll be able to keep up.
This, I think, is a good place to start.
His 2010 offering Inception requires your full attention because there's a lot going on. The story is spread across multiple realities in both the dream world and the real one. Following the simultaneous timelines is a full-time job, so thankfully each different world has an aesthetic all its own. The director introduces an entirely new universe, which has some surprising physics, and like the great storyteller he is, releases bits of information along the way that ultimately reveal a picture you might not expect. Some fans are still arguing over the film's ending, while others come to a different conclusion with every viewing. Whatever side you're on, it probably took you more than one try to get there. Donnie Darko. Writer and director Richard Kelly tells the story of a bright high schooler who almost dies after a jet engine crashes into his house. Jake Gyllenhaal may have had the most screen time, but everyone knows Frank the Bunny was the real star of Donnie Darko. And every time he shows up, he brings a pile of bad ideas with him. The narrative is fairly dark and complex and flirts with time travel, so if you find yourself confused at the end, you're definitely not alone. The movie is a treasure trove of wicked quotes, plus Kelly's balance of humor and heaviness makes it a little less soul-crushing the second time around. Boasting one hell of a soundtrack, every element of the film is stylized to pull the viewer in and keep them there, and does a pretty good job of it too. The Big Short. The creators of the 2015 movie The Big Short know their story is a complicated one, but if the mid-2000s financial crisis was an easy topic to comprehend, probably wouldn't have happened at all. Thankfully though, director Adam McKay anticipated our confusion and employed tutors Ryan Gosling, Anthony Bourdain, and Margot Robbie throughout the film to speak to us in a way we could understand. Despite their best efforts, many viewers found the movie's learning curve just a little too steep to keep up with after only one attempt. But with a second viewing and maybe some economics tutoring, you'll know a subprime mortgage from a synthetic CDO. If you still don't get it after all that, don't worry. The acting is so top-notch, you'll likely forget how confused you are. Memento. By now it's common knowledge that audiences should come into a Christopher Nolan movie ready to pay attention, and thankfully his movies are so good that it's nearly impossible to be distracted. But Memento is a little different. Because of the repetitive nature of the storyline, it could be tempting to tune out for a couple of seconds, and that would be a mistake. Told partially in reverse, the movie is a favorite among Nolan's die-hard fans. It's focused on a man living with severe memory issues as he searches for his wife's murderer. Every conversation is important, and every scene is so saturated with information that even the most vigilant observers will need to take another look. Now You See Me. Illusions are supposed to be complex. They're designed to confuse or mislead even the most suspicious onlookers. And since Now You See Me is a movie revolving around 4 magicians, audience members ought to stay alert. The group pull off showy robberies in front of a sold-out crowd, using their professional skills to get away with it. But fans are still split about some of director Louis Leterrier's final plot twists, complaining that the setup was overly elaborate in an effort to camouflage a weak story. Some pundits even suggested the entire film itself was one big con, while the others disagreed and argued the film is a love letter to the genre. It might be worth taking another look to decide for yourself. The Sixth Sense. Before M. Night Shyamalan twisted himself into a punchline, he directed one of the most epic thrillers of all time, 1999's The Sixth Sense. Praised by audiences for having a good balance of scares and story, it appealed to fans of horror and mystery alike. At this point, the ending is pretty well known. It's been quoted to death, and we're all guilty. But at the time it was released, moviegoers kept the twist ending on the down low, only talking about it with other people who'd seen it, protecting it like a spoiler for Game of Thrones. And most of them returned to see it a second time to find all the clues they missed the first time around. Shutter Island. Inception wasn't the only mind-blower Leo worked on in 2010. He also lent his talents to the Martin Scorsese thriller Shutter Island. As U.S. Marshal Teddy Daniels, DiCaprio comes to the island in search of a missing patient. The movie begins simply enough, but quickly spirals into a tale of paranoia and self-destruction. Scorsese is a masterful storyteller, and with Dennis Lehane's novel as the film's basis, had the daunting task of splicing a ton of intricate plot points in with his own vision for the story. And he delivered. Despite all the evidence that has carefully been planted leading up to it, the movie's conclusion is still a surprise. It's such a surprise, in fact, that many audiences had to give it a second try in order to figure out what had happened. X-Men Apocalypse. The X-Men franchise has a ton of support, and it's certifiably bankable when it comes to box office numbers. But newcomers to the series are liable to feel a little intimidated given the sheer magnitude of their big screen presence. The X-Men universe has gotten a little out of hand, and at this point the timelines and crossovers have gotten blurry. The mutants have moved forward, backward, and across time, and multiple incantations of the same character can be difficult to keep separate without some serious background knowledge.
Holy shit.
Even so, some fans who have been following from the beginning were still scratching their heads at the end of Apocalypse, thanks simply to the amount of story jammed into the film's 144 minutes. So if you're thinking of attending Bryan Singer's latest silver screen production, be prepared to take some notes. What do you think of our list? Did we miss any movies you had to watch twice to understand? Tell us about them in the comments and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this one.